What is going on, everybody? My name is Glenn. This is New Tech Talks, and I'm doing this video kind of in a rushed manner, so it probably won't get edited, so I apologize ahead of time for that. But guys, some new information just came out. If you didn't know, the Cyberpunk 2077 review embargo lifted for written reviews as of today. And in turn with that, Tom's Hardware put out some PC benchmarks for Cyberpunk 2077. I thought that these were pretty important and totally confirming some of our theories about the fact that CD Projekt Red's, their little list that they gave us about this is what you need, your recommended list of what you need for PC hardware in order to run the game. That was based more on actually 30 frames a second and not 60 frames, or at least so it would seem so far. And as a caveat to that, guys, there will be a day one patch that is coming out on Cyberpunk on the 10th, or if you're playing on PC, it's going to be on the East Coast as I am. It'll be 7 p.m. on December 9th. And this day one patch might change things. You might get a slight performance increase because of optimization, but honestly, guys, I mean, it probably won't be anything you'll even notice anyway, but in some cases, it might be that pusher from having 58 frames a second to 60, it might be that push to where you can cap yourself at 60. I don't know. We'll see how that goes on when the game comes out. But I just wanted to revisit really quick the actual list of what they gave us first, and then go into some of the benchmarks that Tom's Hardware provided. So this is the list, guys, that we were talking about beforehand: the ray tracing off, the ray tracing on. And as again, another reminder, if you ended up with a new AMD card, an RX 6000 series card, it will not have ray tracing on day one, which in the end may not be the worst thing ever, because ray tracing might be a wash on this game. It might be such a performance killer that it's not even worth using. I think I might do a deep dive into that, comparing the game when it comes out to ray tracing on versus ray tracing off, just to see if there's a noticeable enough difference to warrant that huge frame rate drop. But this is just that list again, guys. You can pause this if you want to and check this out, but honestly, there's nothing really to look at here other than because we already went over this before. So let's jump into the benchmarks that Tom's Hardware has provided. Okay, guys, so I actually wasn't able to find the article that Tom's Hardware put out anymore. I don't know if they took it down or if I'm just incapable of using a Google search correctly, but nonetheless, I found this from WCCF Tech, and they basically just took screenshots of the benchmarks that Tom's Hardware had put out. So this will do just fine. But if you look right here, this is just to tell you ahead of time what's going on here. They have an RTX 3090 with a 7700K, and if you notice, there's no CPU listed for the other ones. That's because all these other ones are using a 9700K, and this one is just testing for CPU bottleneck. That's why they're using a 7700K. But moving forward with that, guys, this is at 1080p medium settings. And if you look right here, I mean, this is pretty depressing, honestly, because 1080p medium, I mean, I don't know how many of you guys are planning on running Cyberpunk at 1080p medium. I bet it's not many of you, but unfortunately, a lot of you may end up having to. Now, like I said before, there will be a day one patch that may help out, but I don't see it helping out enough if you're running a 1060 right now. I mean, at 1080p medium, they're saying you're going to get 37.4 FPS on average. I mean, that's what they got. So that is depressing, guys. I mean, that sucks, because a lot of people, according to the Steam hardware survey, are still using 1060s anyway. But if you look, if you upgrade it to Turing and the lowest class and you have a 2060, well, at 1080p medium, you're going to be able to get 78-ish frames on average, which is pretty good. I mean, it's not terrible. At least you're over that 60, and your lows are at the 60 mark, so you could cap yourself at 60 and be a-okay, and that's cool, right? But it is still 1080p medium, and I know a lot of you guys don't want to run that. So let's go ahead and look over here at 1440p medium. And this is where I think a lot of you guys, my viewers, are actually going to be playing at, so this one's probably more important. And this is the one that's going to break your heart even more, especially if you have a 1060, because you're playing at 23.4 FPS, which, that is console level. Super bad console level at that. I mean, that sucks. And if you're running a 2060, you're below that 60 FPS mark now, and I mean, that sucks. I don't know any PC player that wants to be below 60. So yes, the game is playable at that, but that is some sucky performance, especially just to play at 1440p medium settings. And if you have one of the new 3060 Ti's, which is currently actually what's in my system right now because I'm benchmarking it as I'm doing this. Actually, I pulled myself away from it to do this, but you can get above 70. So that's pretty cool at 1440p medium. That's not bad. That's really not. Especially for this $400 card if you got an MSRP like I did. If you're rocking a cool 3080, guys, or a 6800 XT, if you're one of us lucky few that got one of those at 1440p medium, you're straight. I mean, you're up there at 99, which is basically where we'll round that up to 100 frames. And I mean, you're doing good, and your lows are in the 60s, so I mean, you're good. You're good. And if you went out and bought a 3090, well, you're very good, you know. So if we scroll down, guys, we'll go ahead and look down here. Now we're into ultra settings, which is where most of you guys are going to want to be playing this game anyway. So right off the bat, the 1060 is getting 25 frames, which, oh boy, that sucks. That really sucks, because that's 1080p ultra. So a lot of you guys are thinking, you know, I got a 1060 or a 1070, I'll be okay playing 1080p ultra. I'm good. No ray tracing, obviously, not an RTX card, no DLSS, but I'll be good at 1080p ultra, like always. Not today, buddy, because this is running like Crysis apparently. So you're getting 25 frames. If you have a 2060, you're almost to that 60 mark, which is cool, but eek, that's 1080p ultra. Now, like I said before, you'll have DLSS, so you should be okay. Right here, actually, we have ray tracing with the 3080 and 3090 right here. That means ray tracing ultra. So we can see at 1080p ultra with a 3080 with ray tracing on ultra, you're getting 54 frames. That is terrible, terrible. And with a 3090, you're only getting 61, also terrible. It's not good at all. Ray tracing on medium with the 3090 though, I mean, you're getting up to 75, 61 to 75. I mean, that's the difference from lowering ray tracing. But here's the real stuff that actually matters. 1080p ultra, 3060 Ti, 77 frames. That is good, guys. That is a nice, smooth experience at 1080p with a 3060 Ti. That is a win for the 3060. But 6800 XT and 3090 and 3080 obviously are still in the hundreds. They are doing just fine at 1080p ultra with no ray tracing or DLSS involved. So once again, if you're in these upper tiers, you're steady, you know. Now at 1440p, which is where, like I said before, most of us are actually playing. Well, let's go ahead and look at the 3080, because it's probably what you guys are actually looking for. The 3080 and the 6800 XT. You got 68, well, we'll round that up to 69 frames and 75 frames. Well, 76, whatever. I'm going to stop rounding. I'm just going to start saying the numbers. It's getting annoying now. So you're above that 60 frame mark at 1440p ultra, no ray tracing, no DLSS for your RTX cards. So that is nice. But of course, you come down here and you throw on the ray tracing, and you're looking at 35 frames at 1440p ultra for a 3080, and yikes. I mean, yikes. And if you want to feel even worse, if you get a 3090, you're only getting 40 frames. Woo! That is not pretty. And the poor 1060 is it's just barely hanging on, guys. Barely hanging on. 2060, 30 frames at 1440p ultra. That sucks. 3060 Ti though, 51 frames. So I mean, it's holding in there. It really is. Let's go to 4K though. This is gonna break everybody's hearts. 3090, 46 frames. Yikes. 3080, 40, 6800 to 33. Don't even want to look. Oh, 7 frames on the 1060. Oh, that poor guy. And here's the 3080 with ray tracing ultra at 4K, 11 frames with no DLSS. That is horrendous. And once again, the 3060 Ti, we already know it's not a 4K card, but it is 25 frames. So if you like console experiences, yeah, I mean, you got a 3060 Ti, you can play 4K, I guess. But let's go on down here. So this is where things get really interesting. We're implementing DLSS now and ray tracing. So let's start with the 1080p Ultra. And first we'll look at the 3080 ray tracing Ultra with DLSS with quality settings. We're at 80.3 frames. This screenshot's actually kind of blurry. I hope you all are able to see this. So 80 frames at 1080p Ultra with the 3080 with DLSS on at quality. That is actually pretty good. Not that bad. I mean, this game is hard to run, so that's acceptable to me. It sucks that the game's so hard to run, but you know, it's doable. If you're looking at a 2060, yikes. Ray tracing Ultra with DLSS on performance, you can get 37 frames. Yikes. That's 1080p Ultra with DLSS and ray tracing. 3060 Ti with ray tracing on Ultra and DLSS on quality, you can get 57.9. So if you turn that 3060 Ti's DLSS up to performance, you'll get above 60. So you can keep yourself at a 60. You can keep yourself playing 60 FPS with a 3060 Ti with ray tracing on Ultra and DLSS on Performance, I'm sure, but that's at 1080p Ultra. So let's go ahead and move on to the 1440p. DLSS on Performance and ray tracing on Ultra with a 3090 at 1440p gets you 79 frames, which is pretty good. I mean, that's more than what I expected at least. And so the 3080 with ray tracing on Ultra, DLSS with quality, you're looking at 58 frames a second, and that is sucky. So if you move that up to DLSS Performance, you'll be okay at 1440p. That's good. I mean, that's probably what I was going to be playing the game on anyway. I was really hoping that I'd be able to do ray tracing and DLSS on quality, but may just have to do Performance or Balanced. We'll see. But it's doable. It's doable. But honestly, guys, I'm leaning along the lines of not even running ray tracing on this game just so I can get the extra frames. I know it's an RPG, but it's also a first-person shooter, so I'm just gonna have to get in the game and see which one feels better to me. You know, is it the visuals that's gonna feel better, or the higher frame rate with the fighting? We'll just find out. So the poor 2060 is dead. And the 3060 Ti with ray tracing on Ultra, DLSS on quality at 1440p is 39.4 frames. Guys, I think the 3060 Ti is out of the picture at 1440p with ray tracing on Ultra at least. I just don't think that it's going to be able to keep up. You may be able to play with settings enough to make it work to get up to 60, but it may be too far gone now. And right here we go. Here's the big one, 4K Ultra with ray tracing. And this is going to hurt. So the 3080 with ray tracing on Ultra, DLSS on quality at 4K is 32 frames a second. So that is straight up console performance. But granted, at least you're playing at 4K. So I mean, that still sucks. There's really no way of getting around that, I guess, but it sucks. Everything else down here is just dead in the water. And if you're just doing 3090 with rasterization DLSS quality at 4K, you can get 74 frames though. So that's not bad. And same thing with the 3080 here, you can get 65 frames at 4K with no ray tracing and just doing DLSS on quality. So that's cool. Right there kind of answers the question to me, you know, like, is ray tracing worth it in this game? Probably not, because of the performance hit you get, but we will see when we get into it. And guys, that's basically gonna wrap up the end of this video. I just wanted to show you guys these benchmarks. Now they could change in the future. That's why I was kind of waiting to show these to you guys, just see if they would change or have any type of like criticism to it. It looks like they're not, but we won't have real benchmarks until the game comes out. So take this with a grain of salt, guys. This is just one group of people reviewing. It could change, and once you see these things with higher grade CPUs, you'll get different numbers as well. So just wait for real benchmarks to come out, but I wanted to show this to you guys anyway, just to give you guys a heads up. If you did like this video, please consider leaving me a like and subscribing if you're new to the channel. It really helps me out, and I really appreciate it. And I hope everybody has a good day. All right.